Hi everyone, Kim Castellano here at the coaching office with Conversations That Inspire. We've been talking about loneliness in your singleness, right? And part one was denial. You know, lonely. I'm not lonely, and we were in denial. And I talked about a little bit about the denial, and now we're going to talk about, okay, once you get past denial and you say to yourself, be real with yourself, and you say, hey, listen, I really am lonely. What do I do now? Okay, I fessed up, I confess, I admit, yeah, I'm lonely. What do you want me to do with this loneliness? God uses these actually unhealthy feelings or emotion to really motivate us to do something, to change something. And they need action, okay? We weren't created, God really doesn't, really God did not create us to be victims of our emotions. He allows us to experience these emotions because he wants us to experience something or change something in our life. So we're going to talk just a few minutes about, what do you want me to do with this loneliness? And I can share just a little bit about my loneliness. I've been separated 3 years, married 13 years in a divorce that just ended. And I needed to go through a season of loneliness in my singleness. And I spent 2 years being alone and wrestled with God on this loneliness. I can remember being alone when I was 18 years old at my first apartment, and I hated being alone. And so I believe God wants to take us, if you're feeling lonely, and he wants to take you through a season of loneliness, and he wants you to end up being a whole person in your loneliness. And to, being single doesn't have to be lonely. So we're going to talk another video even after this. What are the steps to getting out of this? So first, let's talk about how do you use this as a motivation? It's an action. So you can be married. So this really applies to everyone, whether you're single or you're married. It doesn't matter. Loneliness is loneliness. You could be married and still be lonely. I was married for 13 years and I was lonely. I'm sure he was lonely too because we never nailed this thing down. So use it as a motivation to motivate yourself. Again, God doesn't want us to be victims, so we're going to need to take some action. So if you don't take action, you become a victim of your emotion. So you're just going to stay stuck in this and just keep repeating, an unhealthy cycle. So we were made for purpose. And, some of us, we have birthrights. In the Christian world, we talk about birthright. So, Kim, what I do, some people wish they could do, but you know what? It's for me. It's my life purpose. It's my calling. We all have gifts and talents and values. And a lot of times when we're not walking that out, we become lonely. Or if we're being hindered from doing that, we become lonely. So I became very lonely in my walk and pushing and never figured out why things, really weren't moving. But we were made for purpose. So when you're lonely, there's some things that you want to ask yourself. And if you've ever been in my coaching sessions, we do a lot of self-asking, ask your heart questions, because that's where everything really is. It's in your heart. It wants to do something. We were created to do great things. And when we're not, we get these emotions in our way. So use them as a signal. That's what God wants to do right now. So if you're feeling lonely right now, like I was, it's a signal that something is not right, or we're where we're not supposed to be. We do have sin. Sin makes things messy. So when we're lonely, we get desperate and we do sinful things. And you're like, how did I get here? Well, let's see. Let's back it up a little bit. You were lonely and you were desperate and you went. And, and God's saying, no, sit with me. And that's what we've been talking about too, is about your relationship with Christ. And what is that like? Because it does get lonely. And when you're lonely, what are you going to do in that lonely season? And God says, seek me first, and all these things will be added unto you. So I sought him with all my heart. And I'm telling you, I keep heaven very busy, because there's no one in this world that can ever comfort me or keep me most company than heaven itself. And so I keep Jesus and his little angels up in heaven very busy, keeping Kim Castellano happy and not feeling so alone. So when I'm not hearing from God or sensing his presence, I feel lonely. So I learned that. that's where I get lonely. So I always know that I need to seek him all the time, which I'm needy. I'm needy to Jesus. That's who I'm needy for. That's who I need. He is my comforter. He is my, my go-to for my marching orders. And how do you do that? So you need to start asking yourself some questions. First is, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling lonely? Start asking yourself some real hard questions. Why am I feeling lonely this way? So maybe you don't have enough friends. Okay, you're alone because you have no friends. Well then, get up, get out, take some action, and make some friends. Right? Don't just sit there and play the victim. Find some good friends. And we'll talk about that in the next video, about how to, finding friends, finding community. Get out of your singleness and your loneliness. Another question to ask is, what needs in my life are not being met right now? What needs in my life are not being met right now that's making me feel this way? Now, it could be loneliness, it could be anger, it could be resentment, rejection, whatever. Ask yourself some questions. What needs in my life? We all have needs. We all have needs. We all have wants. We all have desires. What's not being met? And then one of the things that always trips me up is, am I focused every day on my purpose? Am I waking up and saying, okay, how am I going to move through this thing today? Because when you keep your eyes on your focus, when you keep your eyes on the goal, you got no time to be lonely. You get very busy. But my goal here in the coaching office always is, and if you've done my stress coaching or Journey to an Authentic You, we get to root causes. So when I'm feeling lonely, what's the cause that's making me lonely? I don't treat the symptom, because the symptom makes me go crazy, and because it's not. And once I treat the symptom and I don't get to the root cause, I'm back to being lonely. So what is it? So kind of that's the takeaway, is get to the root cause. If you're really feeling lonely and you're stuck, please just give me a call, schedule an appointment, sit down, and let's talk about this season of loneliness, and let's get to some of the root causes. One of the things is, I've talked to a lot of people who don't even know their purpose. They don't even know what they like. Jeepers, during this thing, I found that I love to dance. So if you love to dance, go dancing. If you love to bowl, go bowling. You won't feel alone, because you'll be surrounded by a lot of people who are like-minded, like the same things you like, share the same values. We'll talk about that too, about surrounding yourself about people who have the same values. So, in forming community, and that's how that's how we get out of our loneliness. So thanks for listening. I hope you're getting some value out of this. I really do. I'm sharing some real touchy stuff in my own life, but hey, listen, I walked the journey. I'm ahead. I'm really doing good. I'm feeling so much better. And there's so much more that I would love to be able to tell you, but so for today, that's it. Part 2, loneliness in your singleness, and use it as a motivation for action. Change something in your life today. Okay? So peace out. Thanks for listening.